there, fellow gun enthusiasts. You won't believe the bombshell that just dropped from the DOJ suppressors, those things we've all treated like some shady back alley deal for years, are now straight up protected under the Second Amendment. Gun sales aren't just creeping up, they're about to blow the roof off. From my vantage point, this could flip the entire firearms world on its head. Hey, I'm your host from Survival Gear Showcase, and today we're diving headfirst into the chaos sparked by the DOJ's wild court filing. We'll break down why suppressors are vanishing from shelves, what it means for your rights, and why this feels like the biggest shakeup in gun ownership I've seen in ages. Before we jump in, do me a solid, hit that subscribe button, smack the notification bell, and drop a like if you're into this gear talk. It keeps the channel rolling and gets more solid content your way. All right, let's roll. I've seen my share of twists in the gun rights game over the years, but this one hit like a 308 round to the chest, in the best way possible. Back in March 2025, tucked away in the Vanderstock vs. Garland court docs, the DOJ did the unthinkable. They outright admitted that suppressors are covered by the Second Amendment. Yeah, the same folks who've spent decades pushing tax stamps, endless ATF waits, and enough bureaucracy to choke a horse. Their brief laid it out clear as day. A suppressor is an arm under the Second Amendment. No wiggle room, no BS. For decades, we've heard the line that suppressors are just add-ons, not real firearms, and sure as hell not protected. But that dog's not hunting anymore, not after the feds themselves pulled a 180. This didn't come from some new law or ATF memo. It bubbled up in the courts, and it carries real punch. Picture this. If Uncle Sam now says suppressors are arms, then those state bans. They're standing on quicksand. This shift didn't happen in a vacuum. It was the DOJ buckling under a barrage of lawsuits from gun rights warriors nationwide. And now, the suppressor scene is exploding like we haven't seen since the old days. Let's unpack that surge next. This DOJ flip didn't just materialize out of thin air. It built up from the Bruin decision back in 2022, which basically kicked the doors down on how courts look at gun regs. No more wishy-washy interest balancing or public safety excuses. The Supreme Court said it straight. If something touches the Second Amendment, the government better show it lines up with historical tradition. And suppressors. Good luck finding any old-timey ban on them. They got roped into the National Firearms Act in 1934, mostly to curb poaching during the Depression, not because the Founding Fathers were losing sleep over quieter shots. Back in 1791, nobody was flipping out about a muffled musket. That's the wall the DOJ slammed into with Vanderstock. Groups like the Firearms Policy Coalition hammered home that suppressors aren't fancy toys. They're tools that save your hearing, let you shoot smarter, and have been around forever. I remember my first time screwing one onto a .22. Night and day difference. No more ringing ears after a plinking session. The DOJ didn't budge out of kindness. Their old stance was crumbling under Bruin's glare. Once they folded, the market lit up like a 4th of July finale. And man, that market reaction, it hit harder than a recoil from a 12-gauge slug. While suppressors stole the spotlight, there was another firestorm in the same case that ties right in. Vanderstock vs. Garland wasn't just about cans. It shredded the ATF's ghost gun rules on frames and receivers. The Supreme Court jumped on this in early 2025, and their ruling redefined what counts as a firearm. Let me break it down simple. The ATF's 2022 rule stretched the Gun Control Act to cover unfinished lowers and DIY kits, calling even an 80% polymer block a gun if it could be readily converted. That turned weekend tinkerers into outlaws faster than you can say felony. But the Fifth Circuit, and then SCOTUS, slapped that down hard. They said the ATF can't play God and call a hunk of metal a firearm just because it might become one. I've built a few ARs from scratch in my garage, and let me tell you, that rule had me double-checking every drill bit. Now, linking back to suppressors, courts are finally giving accessories and parts the constitutional respect they deserve. No more free passes for agencies to regulate whatever bugs them. With the DOJ's suppressor not on top, it's like the whole system's recalibrating. Gear isn't just extra, it's core to your rights. And that recalibration, it set the stores on fire overnight. I swung by my local shop in Kentucky right after the filing hit, and the place looked like a post-apocalyptic raid zone. Suppressors that were stacked high 2 days ago, gone, poof. Dealers from coast to coast echoed the same. Silencer Shop, Capital Armory, Silencer Co., even Palmetto State Armory saw inventories evaporate. We're talking a 400% jump in orders within 48 hours, straight from Silencer Shop's own reps in a live stream. And it wasn't isolated to cans. Everything connected blew up too. Threaded barrels for easy mounting, subsonic ammo to keep things quiet and effective. I grabbed a box of 300 blackout subs myself last year for a hog hunt, and they pair like peanut butter and jelly with a good suppressor. Integrally suppressed setups like the B and TAPC 9SD, Ruger Silent SRISB, or the Maxim 9 pistol, restock sold out in hours. Online was chaos, but brick-and-mortar spots in Florida, Arizona, and Texas had lines out the door for suppressor-ready handguns. People who'd hemmed and hawed for years finally committed. Even the ATF's E-Form system bogged down from the Form 4 flood. It's that rare panic buy vibe, but this time it's from clarity, not fear. Folks sense the regs easing, and they're jumping in before any backslide. Best part? This isn't just the diehards, it's pulling in a wider crowd, and you can spot who's next in line. This suppressor boom isn't limited to the usual crowd of collectors and NFA junkies. Sure, those guys are stacking more cans, but dealers I've chatted with in Texas and Georgia were floored by the new faces. First-timers rolling in, families eyeing home defense rigs, hunters and backwoods types snagging their debut silencer-ready bolt actions. One shop owner in Boise mentioned moving more threaded Ruger American Ranch rifles in 300 blackout in a week than the past half-year total. Why the shift? People are waking up to suppressors as practical tools, not gadgets. They tame recoil for better follow-ups, shield your ears on the range or in the field. I've lost count of the times I've wished I'd started using them sooner, especially after those unprotected trap shoots back in the day. In rural spots, they're neighborly, keeping the noise down without spooking livestock. Families are big on it too. Parents want to introduce kids to shooting sans the ear trauma. For us older shooters nursing some hearing loss from years of blasting away, it's a game changer to stay active. Think of it like upgrading from open sights to a red dot. Once you try it, everything else feels outdated. And with the DOJ's admission in play, state-level bans are quaking, which is fueling even more buzz. Now that the feds have called suppressors protected arms, states with outright bans are in the hot seat, and they're feeling the heat. Gun rights crews are leveraging that federal flip in lawsuits everywhere. Take New Jersey. The Padua vs. Platkin case just dropped, quoting the DOJ word for word to torch their suppressor prohibition. It's genius, using the government's own words as a battering ram. Similar suits are brewing in Massachusetts, Illinois, and New York. Legal eagles say this could snowball into a nationwide precedent, especially post-Bruin, where if it ain't historical, it's toast. This isn't armchair debate. It's real impact for hunters dodging neighbor complaints, homeowners wanting quiet practice, or competitors fine-tuning without the blast. Pressure's mounting on lawmakers too. Some are ditching band support for its edge over straight-wall calibers. The DOJ cracked the door, lawsuits are flooding through, and it could mean the widest suppressor access ever. Stick around as we wrap this up and look ahead. If you've been on the fence about grabbing a suppressor buddy, this is your wake-up call to gear up and get in the game. The winds are shifting hard toward making suppressed shooting as everyday as slinging a sling on your rifle. The DOJ didn't drop this admission out of the blue or to play nice. They knew their backs were against the wall in court, and folding was the only play left. That cracks the vault wide open for us everyday shooters. But hey, don't get too comfy. The fight's far from over. That pesky NFA tax stamp, still lurking like that one X who won't quit calling. Form 4 filings are mandatory, And if you're stuck in a restrictive state like California, New York, or New Jersey, you're still locked out of what 42 other states treat as basic ear-saving gear. I've got buddies in Jersey who dream of threading a can on their deer rifle without risking a rap sheet. It's nuts. So, stay vigilant. Double-check your paperwork. Keep an eye on local bills creeping through the legislature, and throw some support behind groups like the FPC battling these holdouts. This isn't a one-and-done court win. It's about clawing back turf we've lost since the 30s. If you're in a freer spot, the world's your oyster. Picture this: an integrally suppressed bolt action for stealthy hunts where you don't spook the whole herd. Or a subsonic 300 blackout AR pistol build for home defense, quiet enough to hear the bad guy's footsteps while keeping your family from going deaf in a hallway. I've run drills with a suppressed Glock 19 in low light, and let me tell you, it turns a chaotic bang into a controlled pop, giving you that edge when seconds count. Pistol cans are gold for close quarters work, taming muzzle flip so your follow-ups land like clockwork. Suppressors aren't some elite club anymore. They're sliding into every shooter's toolkit, from varmint poppers to competition rigs. But let's not kid ourselves. This surge has ripple effects beyond the courtroom and gun counter. The market's on steroids, and that's shaking up manufacturers big time. Companies like Surefire, Dead Air, and Silencer Co. are ramping production, but even they're scrambling to meet demand. I poked around online forums last week, and threads are full of guys sharing wait times dropping from months to weeks thanks to the rush. Ammo makers are cashing in too. Subsonic loads in 9mm or 45 are flying off shelves because they maximize that quiet performance without the sonic crack. Ever tried Hornady's Sub X in a suppressed 1911? It's like velvet, consistent, accurate, and neighbor-friendly for backyard plinking. Even optics and accessories are tying in. Red dots with suppressor height sights are hot sellers now, letting you co-witness without craning your neck. I've modded a few pistols that way, and it feels seamless, like the gun was born suppressed. On the flip side, this boom's got anti-stirring, so expect pushback, maybe new bills disguised as safety measures. But with the Supreme Court's track record post-Bruin, those are likely to flop like a wet noodle. Hunters are loving it most. In backcountry spots, a suppressed .338 Lapua means tagging elk without echoing for miles, preserving the peace and your spot. Wrapping this all up, folks, this isn't some fleeting hype. It's a seismic shift in how we own and operate our firearms. From the DOJ's courtroom cave-in to shelves emptying nationwide, suppressors are stepping out of the shadows and into the mainstream. Whether you're a newbie eyeing your first can for range days or adding to the collection for that ultimate quiet build, now's the time to dive in. Stay informed, stay legal, and keep pushing for those rights. If this fired you up, smash that like button, subscribe to Survival Gear Showcase for more deep dives on gear that keeps you ready, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next update. Until next time, shoot safe and stay suppressed.